Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Stretch your legs, no breaks, all right? All right, you can sit down now. Test, test. All right, kill the music. Close the doors. Lock everybody in. All right, so we've now talked about Apollo-Soyuz. You got a lot of history. We've talked about Shuttle Mir. You learned about working together in a different way. You learned about the International Space Station and how amazing it is. But we have to have a future together. The International Space Station, as I said, it's coming down in 2030, and we want to be able to continue. And I believe commercial space is the future, and that's why I've asked these commercial space experts to be kind enough to sit down with me, and I'll introduce them. Dr. Tom Marshburn. Tom was selected to be an astronaut in 2004. He flew on STS-127, TMA-07, Expedition 3435, and SpaceX Crew 3 Expedition Crew 3, the Expedition 66 and 67. So a lot of space and 3 vehicles. I'm going to ask you about that. Tibor, let's see, 2023, man, you just got back. He was one of 4 selected Hungarian astronauts for their program, and he flew the Axiom 4 mission just in 2025 this year on a commercial space flight, and that was amazing. Anusha Ansari, Soyuz TMA, I should have put my glasses on, 9 in 2006 up to the space station. And finally, Etienne Stibbe flew the Axiom 1 mission to ISS in 2022. So you guys have flown on government vehicles, commercial vehicles a lot. I believe commercial space is our future, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. So first off, I have one specific question for each of you, and then I got a bunch of general questions that you can just jump on. So Etienne, I'm going to start with you down at that end. We'll work our way back. What was your motivation for going to space on a commercial flight? And what have been the results of it for you, having flown on that commercial flight to space?
Thank you for your inviting me to speak here. So the idea that I can build the mission, when I go to space, I can decide what I'm going to do on the International Space Station. Now, when the opportunity came in 2020, and SpaceX just started to send people to the station, I signed up, and then I found out that no one in my country knows anything about the space station and what you can do there and what laboratories you can use and how to send material. And so we had to set up teams, and we set up 3 teams, scientific, educational, and artistic. So the idea was to invite everyone to participate in this mission, everyone in the country. Doesn't matter age, profession, and the idea really, in order to build the mission, we called for proposals. It was an open source mission. People send ideas, do this, do that, why not that? And these teams screened all the ideas, all the proposals from children, songs, performances, art, and had to go through NASA and the space station to approve each item, if it's to take things or work on a laboratory. And it was exciting because the result that you ask is millions of people participated in the mission. We were working full-time on those activities, and we got an incredible good support from the NASA, ESA, and Russian astronauts that were on board in order to complete those.
And I should have mentioned it, but Etienne he flew with Israel's first astronaut, Ilan Ramon. And Ilan was a truly amazing individual also. And that's a special bond that you had with him.
That's true.
Anusha, so I'm going to ask you the same question. You know, what was your motivation for going to space? And why do you think commercial space is important? What's the future?
So my love of space and wanting to go to space started when I was a child, and started as a childhood curiosity, turned into a scientific curiosity, and then later to a purpose curiosity, trying to learn about our universe, understanding my place in it, helped me understand and decide on my direction and purpose in life. And it's a deep passion and love that I had. My background and my life was completely focused on being a tech entrepreneur and engineer, and I was on a different path, but I knew at some point I will make a detour, and when I did, it really emphasized how important this was for me. So through the work I did with XPRIZE, we were one of the first ones to believe that a commercial space program will not only open the opportunity for millions of people who really want to experience going to space, but cannot make it through the very limited space program run by governments. But also, it really, working as a tech entrepreneur, I saw how competition had helped different industries grow, especially in telecom industry. I've seen that many, many times with different technologies coming on board. So I deeply believe that bringing competition and bringing a commercial rigor will help, in partnership with the government space agencies, build something that's long-term sustainable and progresses at the rate of technology instead of at the rate of bureaucracy. So that was my motivation behind wanting to see commercial space activities. And as a result, we've seen how exponentially the cost of access to space now has been reduced and continue to be dropped, which has opened up opportunity for investment in space, for different businesses to exist in space, and it will help focus the work of the government space agencies on the frontier technologies and on frontier exploration.
Tibor, as the newest space flyer on the panel, what were your thoughts? What stuck out to you? What do you think about flying in space? And share with us your impression.
Thank you for having me. Obviously flying to space is pretty fun. I love the whole thing. The launch was an unforgettable experience. I could do it any day. And I will be probably talking a little bit about the launch itself tomorrow. Coming back to what Anusha said, I think that's super important for us. When it comes to commercial space, I was actually motivated by the engineering marvel and the engineering achievements of these commercial companies and reusable rockets. That was around 2014, 2016. That was around the time when I actually finished my university studies, my master's studies as a mechanical engineer. So that sparked my curiosity. And unfortunately, our Foreign Affairs Ministry, they announced the program in 2022 or maybe 2021. I applied and I got the lucky one, and I got selected. The reason I'm telling all these is that the story is basically only 10 years old, or maybe even less. A country like Hungary would probably have never paid that amount of money if reusable rockets never come to the market. So because of the engineering efforts of these commercial companies, spaceflight indeed got much cheaper, and because of that, it is actually an enabler and opens doors not only for investors and technologies, but also for smaller countries like ours. So Hungary is like 10 million within our borders, and either if it's a smaller country, it should have the chance to fly to space, and it should have the chance to inspire the young generations. So that's exactly what happened with us. With AX4, Poland, India, and Hungary. I mean, India is obviously not a small country, but all of the three countries have been waiting 40 years or more for their second astronaut to fly. And that was actually enabled by commercial companies. So I think it's a beautiful thing. And as you said, it's the price is gonna drop as well, or even more. And the possibility is just gonna come.
Was Peggy really a tough commander?
She is always a tough commander. Peggy, also known as a space ninja, we could have not been more lucky. I don't know about her. She had to handle 3 kid Labradors or whatever when we came to space. It was a really tough time for her, but it was awesome. And she's Peggy. I don't know. I'm looking at you guys. She's the most experienced American astronaut from female to male with her 695 days in space. She had to fly with 3 first-timers, which is an awful job, I think. But she did really great. Her superpower is building a team. That's her words, not mine. But I completely agree with that. And even though that she's so experienced, she is extremely humble and basically down to earth, which is irony, but she's the best commander for sure.
Tom, you've flown on shuttle, you've flown on Soyuz, you've flown on the Crew Dragon. How about giving us your impression of the 3 and the differences? What likes and dislikes, whatever. Tell us about flying on all 3.
I'm glad you didn't ask me which is my favorite, because it's like, which is your favorite kid? You know, I mean, if you have kids. Each experience is so unique. So the start and the end of all of them are exactly the same. You've been sitting on your rocket for about 2 hours. You do experience valves opening for the first time, because it's never in a simulator. So you hear a groan or feel a vibration. In the SpaceX, you actually feel the rush of fuel as it starts to load. That's when you know it's for real, it's serious. And you're impatient, you've been sitting there 2 hours. Now in the shuttle, at that point, I think of it as a big rumbling truck flying down a rocky road because of just the solids and how they just shake you so much as you're launching, and the incredible wall of sound that surrounds you. Of course, when they pop off, then it becomes quite smooth. The liquid rockets, the Soyuz and the Dragon, are quite smooth from the start until you get out of the wind and the buffeting of the upper atmosphere. Staging on the Soyuz is completely unique because they light the 3rd stage before they drop the 2nd stage. So you see everybody go bam and come forward, and if the UHF is still going, you see people's faces just kind of their eyes pop open when that occurs. But when that happens on the Soyuz, this beautiful tidal wave of sparks go flying by you, ahead of you, and then of course you accelerate right past them, and they go flying behind you. In the background of the blackness of space is incredible. The Dragon is very unique at that staging point because all acceleration stops, and you actually loft for a while. It's very quiet. You almost feel like you're in 0G, but then the MVAC engine slowly starts to accelerate. Of course, in all cases, everybody's experienced it and loves it, is when you get to main engine cutoff, and suddenly it's 0G, and it's just wonderful.
Awesome. So, toss up. Somebody raise their hand who wants to go first. How important is it that we have a commercial space station before we deorbit ISS? Is that important? Anybody want to tackle that one?
Okay.
You're building one.
Yeah, I'll go first just because it's incredibly important. First of all, kind of tied to your other question, why is it important to even have commercial anything in space? Because it's so difficult, so expensive to have relatively slow. Government bureaucracy has to answer a lot of things for its people, not just the bottom line for a business. And so it can happen faster, but also the government agency has to do those things that businesses are not going to do, say send a crew to Mars, perhaps, or inhabit the moon. And so businesses can take over low Earth orbit, can perform those activities that have to be done there. And we always say low Earth orbit is the first step to everywhere else. Everything has to be tested. We're never going to build a Mars ship and just launch it and go straight to Mars without having tested it for months, if not years, in low Earth orbit first. And so every stage, a government agency is likely to lead, and then the businesses will take over from there.
Anyone else want to comment on that one?
I wanted to
Etienne?
ask you, Bob, you undocked the ISS, right? You were the first assembly team that was working on the ISS. When you undocked, you imagined that this could survive for nearly 30 years?
Oh, at least 20. It had to. Yeah, and you know, it's going to be really sad when it comes down. I think it's just absolutely amazing what we have accomplished working together to build that phenomenal space station that's up there. But my personal opinion is that you know, we do have to have a follow-on. There has to be a commercial space station. I think there's great benefit to it. So I'm going to ask my next question, and you can go back to answering the other along with it. But how important is it that we have international cooperation on a commercial space station?
So together with the previous question, I believe that the future of the commercial space stations will change the profession astronaut. Today, an astronaut is expected to do everything: maintenance, healthcare, everything. I believe like any sophisticated institute, like a hospital, it will have technicians, it will have the doctors, it will have the trainers, and I think there'll be opportunities for different professions, humanities, to go to space. And that commercial stations can offer. You see, they invest much more in the design, in the lifestyle, in the training, in playing games, and enjoying the sensation of watching Earth.
I think international cooperation is essential for our future of space exploration because in order to preserve a peaceful use of space, we have to have cooperation. Whether it's commercial or government, I think you can probably achieve collaboration with less red tapes through commercial activities. But even at that stage, I think it's important to have this balance of power by cooperation. And I think I agreed with the previous panel when we talked about how ISS has been a place where we demonstrated how nations can work peacefully and collaboratively in space, building things, doing experiments, sharing information, while still there are conflicts on Earth. And I don't want to lose that because I think the way things are changing in our societies, especially with technology and how there's a power struggle with countries and how their technologies can take over the world, I think we need to have one place at least that we can demonstrate collaboration will advance us further together versus trying to grab power and hold on to it.
I totally agree. I think the message of ISS, the most important message of ISS is peaceful collaboration. When we talked about and thought about our own mission, it was 4 countries. But what we usually said that actually we think that we are more alike to each other than maybe our countrymen back at home. So we have to realize these common goals and common purpose. That was science for us, and then we can achieve these. When it comes to my mission, it was only a couple of hundred people in Hungary. It grew and grew. We invited researchers. We also did an open call. It was a couple of hundred people. Same for Poland and same for India. But when we started to train together, there was also ESA in the picture in Cologne, Tsukuba in Japan, NASA, SpaceX. And so basically only one small mission, which was a short duration mission, it was 20 days, that involved thousands of people. Only one mission, thousands of people from all around the world. And I think that's really, really essential because we travel the world, we build these friendships, and we learned a lot from each other. And everyone is good at different things. And when it comes to your other question, I think there are many practical reasons for that. There are going to be commercial space stations, and there are different approaches. What Axiom does is that they will dock to the space station. One of the reasons for that is that they will actually save science from ISS, and that's important because there are precious equipment and science that should not be thrown out. So that there are definitely practical reasons, And the other thing is, there is the emotional side of the story. There has to be a continuation. When there is a gap, like, when Apollo ended, then came a huge gap, which still continues, basically. Everyone knows that it's a huge gap. We should have been continuing something. If you don't continue, that's a whole other story. So I think there's an emotional effect as well.
Excellent. Tom, anything you'd like to add?
It's just the natural state of humans to do these things together. And what I love, Eitan said something, we had the privilege of flying together. One thing he said, looking back on the ISS, probably 500 years from now, there will be some scientific discoveries that are kind of woven into the fabric of life, and those may be forgotten. But I'll just say, and everybody else has echoed this as well, is the ISS is a place of peace, and will always be seen that way in the fundamentally most human element, and that is and kindness, I guess, between us, which is exploration and creation.
May I add something?
I've always felt
Bob?
that when we leave...
May I add a story?
Oh, absolutely.
So Tom and I,
yeah.
we were lucky to celebrate Yuri Gagarin Day, 12th of April. So the Russian crew hosted the whole 11 astronauts, the whole crew in their quarters in the Russian side. And we celebrated. So the first thing was to gather all whatever is sweet and pile it up on the table. Cream and fruit and cookies, and it was a big pile. And we started eating slowly. We couldn't finish it all. And after really our sugar level in the blood was so high that we had to stop. And then Oleg, the Russian commander, he just flips over the table with all the cake standing here. And, okay, and now we eat fish.
I will also say a very quick story. When I was on orbit with the Russian guys, I got two gifts. Two very, very important gifts. One of them was a special Russian sock, which is completely different. And it has those, those things that makes it sticky. So it's completely different than the US version. And the other one was actually the same Apollo-Soyuz coin, what has been just presented to you, because it means so much to those Russian guys. They have been doing those coins, and they just bought some to the ISS, and they gave it to us, to the three of us or four of us. So it's I think it's a super powerful message again about collaboration.
So, this continuous presence, it really is important. Look at the Russians. They did not deorbit Soyuz until they had Mir up. They did not deorbit Mir until they were on ISS, and they've always had that continuous presence. As far as exploring beyond our home planet, I've always felt that, the importance of working together, that I believe that when we leave our planet, we should leave as the people of planet Earth, not the people of any one nation. When Artemis 2 launches to the moon, there's going to be a Canadian on board, which I think is very positive. So, our future, we need to work together on this, not separately. And I believe, for one thing, it's way too expensive, and we need to pool our resources if we're going to be successful. Let's see, next question. Give me one experience from your flight that really stuck out to you, that you remember, that you want to share with the audience. Anusha, why don't you go first?
Well, everything was so new to me, and my flight actually happened to be a fluke because I was a backup crew. I trained with Peggy, and I wasn't supposed to fly. I was told that I was selected to fly just 3 weeks before the flight. I had finished training as a backup crew, but I wasn't scheduled, so I didn't have time to do my own experiments. So I, organized with the European Space Agency and carried on 4 of those missions. But I think one of the unique experiences I had was one day I was just floating above the cupola was not there, the station was still being built, so I was over the big window on the Russian side, and I was just watching the Earth go by and just listening to my iPod. And there was lightning going on the ground. And I was listening to this music, and it felt like a display, a light show that was going, perfectly well with my music, and I was enjoying it. And then I had to remind myself that from this vantage point, it was a very peaceful, beautiful experience. But those in traffic, stuck trying to get home, and it's raining, and there's chaos all over, are going through a completely opposite experience. And it just re-emphasized one thing that is common from all of us that had the opportunity to be in spaces. It gives us different perspective. It helps us see the world through a different lens, and just reminding ourselves of that when things don't go our way, or there is conflict or chaos going on, or big problems happening. I always try to go to that moment and try to look at it from a different perspective, whether it will give me an insight to a solution or just helps me see the other point of view. It has been an experience that I cherish.
We had so many great memories with Crew 10 and the Soyuz MS-27 guys. I would refer back, actually resonating with your other questions, it was 11 of us on board, 11 people from 6 countries, and out of that 11 people, 7 was rookie flyers, like seven new flyers, which tells me a lot about how space is expanding and how space is really about collaboration. So for me, it's always about people. First hour when we docked to the station, due to KU coverage, we had to wait 1 hour until our opening ceremony, so we had to kill time. So Anne McLean, she said, okay, why don't you guys, this was right after we arrived, why don't you guys close your eyes and trust us? And obviously they grabbed our waist, and we were 3 puppies, Swabo, Shux, and me, and they brought us to Cupola with our eyes closed, and then they told us when can we open our eyes. And that was, we were phasing for 28 hours, so we saw Earth, but seeing Earth for the first time from Cupola, that's totally different. So we were just there, three first-time flyers, and wandering around for 20 minutes. It was a wonderful feeling. And then we still had time, right? So Anne told us that, okay, why don't you call your parents? So I went to a laptop, and basically, first hour on station, I dialed the number of my mom, and I could call her. And that was 30 hours after the launch. And I could feel her voice that she's relieved. She saw the videos, she saw the TV, that okay, we are docked, we are safe. And trust me, that was not the feeling that she had when the launch was happening, because I also called her from the launch tower, and that was a very, very different, very emotional discussion. But when I arrived to station, it was again totally different. Those were only the first hour of station, but those were really beautiful moments.
Tom, based on his question, I have a question before you answer. So, having looked at the Earth on a spacewalk and having been in the cupola, what do you prefer? Looking at the Earth in your spacesuit or being in the cupola in shirt sleeves watching the Earth go by? Which is better?
That's a great question. There's such different experiences. A spacewalk is so intense that, and you're on a timeline, you don't get that many glimpses of the Earth. See it all at once, but you don't have any chance really to sit there and study it at all. Whereas, and what you're amazed by is once you're outside the ISS, on my second mission, I'd been inside of it for 5 months, and then suddenly right before I was going to come home on an emergency spacewalk, I found myself on the outside, and you're holding on to it, and you realize it's not attached to anything. It's going around the Earth. The Earth is moving under you, and you go, wow, how is this even happening? You get that extreme feeling of I could fall. But on the inside, time is very valuable. You don't have much. But on each flight, I made it a point to grab a crewmate, go to the window, and to look at the Earth from the window with someone else, and to share it with someone. It's a very unique experience. They have a different perspective. Julie and I, we had a beautiful cross right over Canada at the top of that orbit when there was a storm and during the sunset. So she was able to just lay out all the beautiful places, point them out, and describe them to me, what they look like from the ground. Jessica Watkins, a planetary geologist who used to work on the Curiosity probe before she became an astronaut, pulled her to the window when we were going over Africa. What do you see? Tell me with your brain. Tell me what how you see this. So looking out the window with somebody else, I think is the thing I'll always bring back and never forget.
So Andre before spoke about the comedies that they watched in space. So we had a comedy, but then the Russian crew decided to check how brave we are. And Sergei there, they chose a film called Salute 7. And that's a space station falling apart. You're sitting there, the 11 of us, and we're looking at that movie. But I remember you're speaking about docking and undocking. So the docking, we were lucky to look through the window just a few hundred meters before docking. And I saw the space station first time as a golden jewel in the black sky, the black universe, not sky. So it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment because space was dark, Earth was dark, and the jewel was still shining gold. And very similar, after undocking, we were on the Venus port, so we went up. After 10 minutes, we were out of our seat and watching the station and flying over the station below us, this big metal structure, amazingly flying with no power at a huge speed. And these are pictures I will never forget.
All right, so I'm going to try and get us out of here a little bit early because we've got a bus to catch, and a lot of folks would like to change into casual clothes before we go on the next event, but hopefully I can squeeze in a couple more questions. First off, what's one thing that you would like to leave with the students and the non-space flyers in the audience? What's one thing that you would like to tell them to remember? Tom?
It's so good that you're here because you are the future. There are concerns that our next generation's up to something like spaceflight. More risks are going to have, greater risks are going to have to be taken going to the moon and Mars. The path today, at least to get there, is very hard. Math, physics, science, engineering, medicine, these are hard subjects. But I want to say it is worth it. Every bit of it is worth it. So thank you for your enthusiasm that brought you here. Just keep at it, keep going. And if you want to be there, you'll find yourself there one day.
Yes, thank you guys for being here. My mission incorporated hundreds of people from Hungary. Lots of those people, a majority of those people, they have never been working in space before. So they came up with ideas and we created experiments out of those. So ultimately we created science to space, which was awesome. So now, back at home, I have a couple of hundred people hungry because they created successful space experiments, so now they want to do more. So now we have to create another mission for them. So it's a never-ending circle, but it's fine because these people realized that whatever field they are studying or working at, let it be biology or law or whatever, if it starts with space, like space biology, space law, space economics, whatever, that's going to be the peak of that field. That's how I see it. So even if you don't want to be an astronaut, if you have the chance to work in something space, like space biology or whatever, you can be sure that you will be working on the hardest questions of that field. And I think that's motivating enough. So if you happen to go towards those paths, then you are really the future.
I would like to also just, first of all, thank them for being here and participating. That's the first step to learn. And also just remind them that, I'm an example, like Marcos talked about how he had a dream that seemed impossible. I'm sure for some of them, going to space seems like an impossible dream. But at least both of us are examples of, yes, it is possible, and it requires hard work. It's not going to be easy. But fortunately, I think there will be a lot more opportunities because we're going to have permanent presence in space, in orbit, on the moon, and beyond. And that opens up opportunity for more people to participate in the new space economy. And the last thing I would say that, experience of being in space changes you, helps you become a better version of you. And don't relegate the future of space to humanoid robots. It's still worth it for us, even though there are dangers and there's harsh environment. There's still a reason for us to experience that individually.
Just to add to everything that was said, don't give up. There will be a next Brazilian astronaut, and probably on the moon, or even further. So don't give up.
When my mission was in the news, there was a query, like a questionnaire they asked the general public. It turned out more young guys want to be TikTokers than astronauts, which is not good. Indeed, opportunities will come. There's going to be even more and more astronauts, so please be astronauts. That's much more than being TikTokers. Like, it's much more important.
All right, show of hands. First, who thinks commercial space is our future? You guys can answer too. All right. And who would go back again if they had the chance? Hey, first up, thank you so much for saying yes to being part of this panel. How about a round of applause for our commercial space panel? Giselle, I turn it back over to you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for everyone. As we conclude this afternoon's activities here at Club Med Lake Paradise, we remind all participants that at 5 p.m. we will begin the official transfer to São Paulo, where the technical visit and welcome cocktail will take place at the Catavento Museum, one of the Latin America's leading centers for science outreach. We kindly ask all participants to be ready for boarding the official buses, following the schedule and instructions provided by the coordination team. We wish everyone a pleasant evening and inspiring experience in the city of São Paulo. Once more, thank you very much